electrical box, the electrical components off are very easy to do. So even the front display comes off, all the seals are located. You can see how it's actually mounted. So if you needed to take the display off, it's very easy. You just take your screws out and this whole piece will come right out. You need to take your control board out. It's pretty simple. Disconnect. Again, the screws. On. And that replaces the controller if you ever need to. Field connection board, very similar. You're going to take your wires off. Disconnect your ground. And again, you're going to take these 4 screws off and disconnect it. One of the things I want to point out also is all the screws are the same size. So every single screw is interchangeable. So everything we mount with, even on the field connection boards, are all the same screw. Just makes it a lot easier as far as spare parts. Makes it a lot easier for the contractor long term. And it also makes it universal, so you need only one tool. One of the objectives with this boiler was to make sure that the contractor didn't have a whole bunch of tools he needed in order to take this apart. There's only a few tools you need. So I've now taken all the electrical components off of the system, just with the Phillips screwdriver in a very short period of time. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the bracket which holds the control board. There's a couple of screws on both sides of the unit, and that'll give you a complete access. I'll also take the fan and I'll disconnect that too at the same time. And I'm going to disconnect my ground leads and my rectifier. So now I've got all those disconnected. There's some components, the water switch I'm going to disconnect. I'm also going to disconnect my Molex for my high limit and operating limit. Okay, and then I'm going to look down here. This is my block vent switch. Terminals I'm going to take off, my gas valve terminal. And then I'm going to do some disconnecting down here where we have, I'm going to look for some other lines that go up to the control circuit. Right now, the only other ones are my vent switch and my ECO limit for the flue. So now I'm going to disconnect this, which is the bracket. Again, black in color, so they're easy to find. One more screw I got to take out. Again, you'll notice if you ever do this, hopefully you don't have to, but over the years, things do have to be fixed. You'll notice that all these parts are interchangeable. You don't have a lot of different screws. You don't need a lot of different tools. It pops out. Okay, I got one more connection I got to take out, and I just got to pull my hose off of my flue, and then I just got to disconnect. The last thing I got to disconnect is my condensate blockage switch. and then it comes completely out. And you can see, you got your two switches here. One of them is going to be for the block vent, and the other switch is going to be for your condensate. So if the condensate starts to back up and something's clogged, the switch will activate. One of the other things are these two switches are exactly the same. There's no difference. So that's nice from a replacement standpoint. You only need to have one switch on your truck. You don't need to have a bunch of switches. You don't need to stock a lot of different components. Again, it's those little details that make a big difference in an appliance. So now you can see that we have full access to the system. I've taken the complete control assembly. It wasn't that difficult. We have complete access to the module. You can see the boiler block here, your gas valve.
Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fan assembly off. First thing is I'm going to take my adjustable wrench. I'm going to loosen the pipe here. Disconnect the unit. And the flexible gas line coming in. So get it out of the way. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Allen wrenches. This will be metric number 4. What I'm going to be doing is there's 3 screws that mount this. This is our outlet for a combustion boiler assembly. So I'm going to disconnect those. At the back here, got plenty of clearance to take it out, shouldn't be a problem. And then I got one in the front here. This one in the front does a couple of things. It holds the reflective shield, so you can see the combustion, you can see what's happening inside the combustion chamber. So it not only holds the reflective shield, but it also secures the bulb, so it provides 2 functions. Simply take it out, just pull the ball out. You can see there's an O-ring in here. Make sure that the O-ring goes back in when you go to seal it. This is your gas O-ring. Okay. Then if you need to work on your blower, this is your venturi here. This is your silencer, or what we call a silencer, and what this does is this eliminates any noise that will occur on write-off, keeps the appliance running smooth. And this is just a standard 2-inch hub. We have a little eyelet hole in there, so when you put it back on, you don't want to insert it too far. You want to bottom it out right here with this hole.
And the venturi can come off with these 4 screws here. And the blower outlet, if you need to change the channel or you need to change the blower, you just disconnect these 2 screws, put the new blower on, secure your venturi, secure your blower outlet, and you're done. You'll notice also there's a gasket, and the gasket has some RTV on it. That's high temperature RTV that holds it in place for you. So if you ever need to replace it, just make sure this gasket is on there when you go to replace it in the field. These notches will help you locate. It's unique. You can't really locate it in one position versus another, but that's the whole combustion assembly right there. Burner's real easy to take out. We constructed the boiler so the burner would clear the top of the boiler. So in order to take it out, you'll notice there's a little V-block. There's a little V-block here, and that's for alignment. So if you ever take the burner out and need to put it back in, make sure it goes into this V-block, which is located right, and there's a recess in there, which will make it seat. You'll feel it, and you just lock it in. Okay, so that's the burner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the burner mounting plate off. You need a 10mm screwdriver or a ratchet. You're going to disconnect it. Disconnected all these here. There's 4 located on the boiler. Again, there's plenty of clearance to get to them. These are very similar to the ones we have on our other boilers, the Elite. Plate out. The plate comes out with the combustion gasket. This is a refractory. Okay, so you can see your spark electrode, your reference electrode. This is your refractory. You can kind of see how the burner door, it's all laser cut. You can see that it's even indicated what the top of the door is. And again, we have our little notch here, so when you lock in your burner, this is a little bit easier to see. You can see you can only do it in one position. Okay, and that's a proper seat. And to get the flame probe or the spark out, it's just simple Allen key. Phillips, excuse me. Phillips for either one. And that's your burner. Also, you have your gasket. This is your silicone gasket. One of the things I want to point out, the reason why this is a high temperature silicone, the reason why that's very important is this whole flange here is water cooled, which is different than the other boilers. So the water jacket actually extends into the combustion chamber. So this is all water cooled. So it should keep the components cooler, it should keep the door cooler, and it should make the gasket last a long time. Heat is what kills gaskets. So it won't become embrittled and the seals will be very good for a long period of time.
The exhaust flue system is specially designed to make connections to the exhaust system easy. Our built-in check valve system keeps harmful gases from backfeeding through the exhaust during periods when the boiler is not in operation. Sensors are mounted to monitor the temperature in the flue to assure safe and efficient operation.
The flue sensor. You just unthread it, get it out. It's a standard taper thread, and the sensing, the NTC element or the sensor is located at the end. It's all stainless steel with a plastic enclosure, and it's a simple Molex connection, 2-pin Molex connection that measures the temperature inside the flue and measures the absorption rate inside the heat exchanger. Another sensor, which is a limit, monitors the flue temperature, and it's a safety limit just to make sure that for any reason whatsoever, if we start to see elevated stack temperatures above the limitation of the connected plastic material, that we will shut the unit down. The reset button is right here. So you have two leads, you run voltage through it, and that is a feedback back to the control. And what it does is if it's a bimetallic switch, so if the temperature gets too hot in the flue system, I think these are rated at 210, what it'll do is open and then you simply press the switch to reset it. You monitor the system. If it doesn't reset, then you have to address the situation in your combustion system. It could be cleaning, it could be other issues. So that's another safety we have. This barb connection, which is made out of stainless steel and has a silicone O-ring, also is connected to our block vent switch. So we're monitoring the pressure from the outlet of the heat exchanger into the venting system. So if there's blockage, some downstream blockage, or anything's happening to the system, or even the check hangs up for whatever reason, we're going to measure, and what will happen is the unit, we have the pressure switch is normally open, and then it closes on rise. So what will happen there is if the pressure gets too high in the vent system, the switch will become activated, and it will have to be addressed on the installation. It could be a blockage, snow, could be other things.
Another thing is you can take the flue system out. It's pretty easy to do. Just take the screw with the Phillips screwdriver. Another thing, these screws are the same. So all the screws are the same as I showed you earlier, taking off the panel and other things. To simply take it off, there's 4 screws that hold it. You just lift it up. And obviously you'd have to cut your flue pipe to get it out, but the whole assembly does come out of the boiler. And you can see the assembly with the flange, the holes. Your check system is on the bottom, and you might be able to see that in there. If we can zoom in here, you'll see that there's the flue check system, and then you can see the other tapped holes for our sensors that we have on the outlet of our flue assembly. All this is made out of CPVC. So you can see our check system in the flue, and it's basically, there's a pivoting point here with 2 flaps, and I'll just move it for you so you can see it. But what happens is as the fan runs, airflow is in this direction, it lifts the flappers, and then when the fan is disengaged and there's no airflow, the flappers close, and it keeps any air moving back into the system, cold air, during the winter time where you start having some convection, and it'll eliminate any possible contaminants getting back into the boiler. That'll help all the components of the system last longer.
The gas valve, to disconnect the gas valve if you ever need to replace it, and you're going to simply take a pipe wrench. What you can do is take your pipe wrench and turn it. So you can take the gas valve off, and now this whole assembly's off. And what you can do is you can put it on a bench, clamp it properly to take any of the pipes off you need to. So when you reinstall them, you can dope them. That way you'll have, it's better to do it that way. That way you'll have better seals. This is our standard GBO55 Dunlop's gas valve. Your solenoids are here. Your inlet gas pressure tapping is right here. It's a needle valve, so you can take pressures if you need to monitor incoming pressure. For gas adjustment into the valve, you have a throttle screw. You'll notice that there's a plus and a minus. You just rotate that either way to either increase fuel or decrease fuel. There's also this little tower here, which is your offset adjustment. And that normally is, if you ever have to adjust that, that's mainly for light off. The rule of thumb is if this throttle is adjusted where you want to increase fuel, there's a plus. We're going to go to the plus side. Well, if you're doing your offset is exactly opposite. So in other words, if you forget which direction you need to go, your throttle, you're going to turn one way. Your offset is going to be the exact opposite to provide the same function. So if I'm turning the valve left to increase fuel on my throttle, I got to turn it right to increase fuel on my offset for light off. You need to have combustion equipment whenever you're doing adjustments. It's very important on either natural gas or LP to make sure that your combustion is running clean and safe.
When you're doing your offset adjustment, you also want to open this needle valve again, which is on the outlet of the valve, and you can make those adjustments. Normally we run what we call a slight negative. It's 2 decimal points on your pressure gauge. And what you normally do is you do that adjustment to either a negative 0.02 or basically 0.00. And then the throttle, as I mentioned before. So this is to take your gas valve. It's pretty easy, as you can see. And then I've got my flex assembly.
The Elite Fire Tube Heater has a buffer of water in its design, which lowers the pressure drop through the heat exchanger and provides easy installation without the expensive primary and secondary piping methods that most traditional high-efficiency boilers require. Piping to the indirect is easy, and an additional boiler line voltage outputs can be connected to the field connection board outputs to control the operation of either the central heating pump or the indirect pump for providing domestic hot water. Multiple boilers can also be piped together to provide system redundancy and a greater turndown for large commercial installations.
Main features of our EFT Elite Fire Tube Boiler. Fire Tube Boiler has a really good turndown. Its combustion turndown is 5-to-1. Plus, the volume of the heat exchanger provides very low pressure drop in your system. So if you have minimum flow rates that you could achieve in your job, there's really no need to go primary, secondary piping with this, because the boiler won't short cycle if it has proper flow through based on its overall firing rate. So the nice thing about the fire tube is the fire tube will allow for smaller pumps. It will allow for easier installation, easier retrofit, and it will avoid a lot of additional piping and additional controls that you would probably need with other low mass boilers. The versatility of this system, being a wall-hung system, and the control panel that we have here, and the controller itself, we can set the system up in a number of different fashions. We can go for a reset with it. We can set up multiple boilers. We can do cascading up to 8 boilers for large commercial systems, which will give us greater turndown. The ease of installation and the amount of electrical draw, because we have some volume in this heat exchanger, allows for smaller pumps, which means less electrical usage. Venting is very easy to connect up to 3-inch vent. We can go up to 200 feet combined on both the intake and exhaust.
So venting the appliance and finding an area where to vent this, because we can go longer, helps a lot, because if you in a mechanical room and your pipes are located and you don't want to move them, which could cost a lot of money and a lot of time, our vents can be placed or are directed within the mechanical rooms or installation far away, which will help you out a lot. Some of the other things, this appliance is Energy Star rated. A lot of utilities have programs here in New England where our factory is. We have some very aggressive utility rebates. There's still some federal rebates for this appliance. It's 97% AFUE, is one of the highest in the industries, and it provides a lot of energy savings for the homeowner. The control system, the total control system, really again is one of the key elements to this. It provides a lot of flexibility in design of your systems, gives you good response. We can actually lower the temperature of the boiler. We can do 2 temperatures. There's just a number of things you can do with this.